So this is Michael with my current TV. We're talking this episode about a lot of things. There's a lot of moving parts here. So as we know, Sunday we had the interview with Oprah, Harry, Meghan, which pulled in a combined 30 million viewers. We had Meghan Kelly get dragged on Twitter for her reaction to said interview. We had hashtag abolish the monarchy trend. We had Piers Morgan attack the royal couple, and then he gets clapped back on, and then he quits Good Morning Britain. And we also hear from Thomas Markle. This is going to be a long video. Settle in. It's time for some of my current TV. Welcome back, friends. So, as you know, on Sunday there was a big explosive interview with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, so Prince Duchess Meghan and Prince Harry and Oprah Winfrey, and it was about an hour and a half long. They also had some extra stuff, things like that out there, as part of the next day. And I didn't get to watch it live. I actually got to watch it yesterday because I was flying when it was on. So I'm going to convert with my notes and just give you the highlights really fast. So Megan, she said she didn't know how to be a royal day to day outside of doing, cause work and things like that. She did not research the royals or Harry. That was a huge mistake. It worked out to her advantage, she said, because again, she wasn't nervous. But there's certain types of people you might want to Google before you get with them, and he's probably one of them. Um, 3 days before the wedding that we saw in 2018, they actually got married. The Kate Middleton situation, where Meghan was said to have made Kate cry, was actually the reverse, and Kate did apologize, and Meghan and Harry were really, really good about not throwing Kate Middleton under the bus. And um, Meghan says she thinks Kate Middleton is a good person, and the Kate Middleton apologized, gave her a note, sent her flowers, so everything was good and gravy. Oprah brought up the headlines comparing the treatment between Kate and Meghan. Um, and the saying went that, she came in as a mixed race American divorcee, and she was made aware of how different she was from the firm, which she referred to the royal family as the firm, kind of like how Diana called them the establishment. Um, and she was silenced. The royals weren't supportive and would lie to cover up certain members and leave her out to dry, she says. The Queen had always got on well with Meghan. She said she was welcoming, she was warm, and she was inviting. They were also really careful not to throw the Queen under the bus, and they paid tribute to her and all this other wonderful stuff. Meghan says she felt lonely, in the establishment when you come from freedom and independence. She asked for help from the firm, and she did not get it. She did not get the protection from hit pieces like other royals get. Archie was not to be a prince, or at the time they wasn't sure what he was not to be a prince, and will not receive security, and the title dictated whether or not he got security or not. This went against royal protocol of an HRH in 1917 by George V, which she alluded to, which the children and grandchildren of a sovereign would be styled His Royal Highness or Her Royal Highness and made a prince or princess. So when Charles takes the throne eventually, honestly, at this point she might outlive him, but when Charles takes the throne, then Archie very well may become a prince, His Royal Highness at that point, because he would be the grandson of a sovereign. Um, the choice that we know of Archie not being a prince was initially put off as if it was something that Meghan and Harry wanted, which was not the case. While pregnant, there were talks of about title security and how dark the child may be, and they hedged on this one. They would not say who said this about their child. Honestly, I thought it was Prince Philip. It was proven to be wrong about Prince Philip. So who knows? Meghan had suicidal thoughts while she was pregnant with Archie. She was blocked from getting help by the institution and deemed it nearly insurvivable. Had to fake it for the people, much like Diana. They announced, when Harry came out, that they're having a daughter, and they did not blindside the Queen. They knew about this for months and months on end, as you could see in the official letter that she gave. Um, They wanted to be like other royals. They could work for the queen when called, but live independently, like his cousin Eugenie does, like his cousin Beatrix does, like one of the princesses do. Like this is not unprecedented, and that's what people are not understanding. This is not unprecedented. So people saying that they can't do it or it can't be done, they're full of it, and they don't know their history and their British politics, or even politics of Europe. I do. Harry found that history was repeating itself, and he didn't want things to end up like how his mother ended up. Tabloids and the royals were they have this invisible contract, and so there's a working symbiotic circular relationship between the tabloids and the crown. Harry had his security pulled as well. He was also disinherited. Meghan had no royal training, and Harry says that gotten by essentially on his mother's inheritance to him through her will, and says his brother and father are trapped in the system. Let's take a look at some of these clips and some of these things, and let's talk.
Clear to everybody that even though we're neighbors, I'm down the road, you're up the road.
Yeah, this isn't my house. This isn't your house.
This is my house. We were using a friend's house because they had a very nice,
beautiful
pergola. That there has not been an agreement. You don't know what I'm going to ask.
No.
And there is no subject that's off limits.
Yeah.
And you are not getting paid for this interview.
All of that's correct.
All of that is correct. So, you ready?
I am. I thought that was it. I thought we were done now.
What is particularly striking is what Meghan shared with us earlier, is that no one wants to admit that there's anything about race or that race has played a role in the trolling and the vitriol. And yet, Meghan shared with us that there was a conversation with you about Archie's skin tone. Mm-hmm. What was that conversation?
That conversation I'm never going to share. But at the time it was awkward. I was a bit shocked.
Can you tell us what the question was?
No, I'm not comfortable sharing that.
Okay.
But that was right at the beginning, right?
Like, what will the baby look like?
Yeah, what will the kids look like?
Yeah, what will the kids look like?
But that was right at the beginning when she wasn't going to get security, when members of my family were suggesting that she carries on acting because there's not enough money to pay for her and all this sort of stuff. Like, there was some real obvious signs before we even got married that this was going to be really hard.
Mm. So in conclusion, if you'd had the support, you'd still be there?
Without question.
Yeah.
I'm sad that what's happened has happened, but I know and I'm comfortable knowing that we did everything that we could to make it work, and we did everything on the exit process the way that it should have been done.
With as much respect.
With as much respect.
Oh my God, we just did everything we could to protect them.
So what do you say to the people who say that you came here, you made these multi-million-dollar deals, and that you were just money-grabbing royals?
First off, this was never the intention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're certainly not complaining. Our life is great now. We've got a beautiful house. I've got a beautiful family. The dogs are really happy. But at the time, during COVID, the suggestion by a friend was, what about streamers?
Yeah, we genuinely hadn't thought of it before.
I never thought about it. So there was all sorts of different options. And look, from my perspective, all I needed was... And once as a father.
So when I asked the question, why did you leave? The simplest answer is...
lack of support and lack of understanding.
So I want clarity. Was the move about getting away from the UK press, because the press is everywhere, or was the move because you weren't getting enough support from the firm?
It was both.
Both.
Yeah.
Did you blindside the Queen?
No. I've never blindsided my grandmother. I have too much respect for her. I hazard a guess that it probably could have come from within the institution.
I remember when you talked to her several times about this over
2 years.
2 years, but even the night before, days before, with the statement coming out, I remember that conversation.
So, and how do you know she wasn't blindsided? Because the way it was presented to the press is that suddenly you made this announcement, she didn't know it was coming.
No, when we were in Canada, I had 3 conversations with my grandmother and 2 conversations with my father before he stopped taking my calls, and then said, can you put this all in writing, what your plan is?
Your father asked you to put it in writing?
Yeah, he asked me to put it in writing. I put all the specifics in there, even the fact that we were planning on putting the announcement out on the 7th of January.
So
yeah. I didn't have anyone to turn to. You know, we've got some very close friends that have been with us through this whole process. But for the family, they very much have this mentality of, this is just how it is. This is how it's meant to be. You can't change it. We've all been through it.
We've all been through the pressure. We've all been through being
Yes, but what was different
exploited.
What was different for me was the race element, because now it wasn't just about her, but it was about what she represents, and therefore it wasn't just affecting my wife; it was affecting so many other people as well. And that was the trigger for me to really engage in those conversations with senior Palace staff and with my family to say, guys, this is not going to end well.
And when you say end well, what did you mean?
For anyone, it's not going to end well, because the way that I saw it was, there is a way of doing things, but for us, for this union and the specifics around her race, there was an opportunity, many opportunities, for my family to show some public support. And I guess one of the most telling parts, the saddest parts, I guess, was over 70 members of parliament, female members of parliament, both Conservative and Labour, came out and called out the colonial undertones of articles and headlines written about Meghan. Conservative and Labour came out and called out the colonial undertones of articles and headlines written about Meghan. Yet no one from my family ever said anything over those 3 years. That hurts. But I also am acutely aware of where my family stand and how scared they are of the tabloids turning on them.
She was well received in the beginning.
Yes, far better than I expected. But, you know, my grandmother has been amazing throughout. You know, my father, my brother, Kate, and all the rest of the family, they were really welcoming. But it really changed after the Australia tour, after our South Pacific tour.
That's when we announced we were pregnant with Archie. That was our first tour.
But it was also the first time that the family got to see how incredible she is at the job. And that brought back memories.
I'm thinking because I watched The Crown, okay? I watched The Crown. Do you all watch The Crown?
I've watched some of it. We've watched some of it.
I've watched some of it.
But there's this, I think it was the 4th season, actually, where there's an Australian tour. So is that what you're talking about? It brought back memories of that? The Australian tour,
Yeah.
where your father and your mother went there and your mother was bedazzling. So are you saying that there were hints of jealousy?
Look, I just wish that we would all learn from the past. But to see how never part of the plan.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
you didn't have a plan.
We didn't have a plan. That was suggested by somebody else by the point of where my family literally cut me off financially, and I had to afford security for us.
Wait, hold up, wait a minute. Your family cut you off?
Yeah, in the first quarter of 2020. But I've got what my mum left me, and
Yeah.
without that, we would not have been able to do this.
Okay.
So, you know, touching back on what you were asking, what my mum would think of this, I think she saw it coming. And I certainly felt her presence throughout this whole process. And for me, I'm just really relieved and happy to be sitting here talking to you with my wife by my side. Because I can't begin to imagine what it must have been like for her going through this process by herself all those years ago, because it has been unbelievably tough for the two of us, but at least we had each
What's
other.
your relationship like now with your family?
I've spoken more to my grandmother in the last year than I have done for many, many years.
Do you hold Zoom calls?
We did a couple of Zoom calls with Archie.
Yes, I could see
Yeah.
Archie.
My grandmother and I have a really good relationship and an understanding, and I have a deep respect for her. She's my cousin-in-chief, right? She always will be.
Your relationship with your father? he taking your calls down?
Yeah. He is. There's a lot to work through there. You know, I feel really let down because he's been through something similar. He knows what pain feels like, and Archie's his grandson. But at the same time, you know, of course I will always love him. But there's a lot of hurt that's happened, and I will continue to make it one of my priorities to try and heal that relationship. But they only know what they know, and that's the thing. I've tried to,
Or what they're told.
or what they're told, and I've tried to educate them through the process that I have been educated.
Because is it like being in a big royal bubble?
Yeah.
Yeah. And your brother relationship? Much has been said about that.
Yeah, and much will continue to be said about that. You know, as I said before, you know, I love William to bits. He's my brother. We've been through hell together, and we have a shared experience. But we were on different paths.
Well, what is particularly striking is what Meghan shared with us earlier, is that no one wants to admit that there's anything about race or that race has played a role in the trolling and the vitriol. And yet, Meghan shared with us that there was a conversation with you about Archie's skin tone. What was that conversation?
That conversation I'm never going to share. But at the time it was awkward. I was a bit shocked.
So you saw those clips, you saw that interview, and you saw what Harry had to say and what Meghan had to say. Here are my thoughts on that. So, I feel like Meghan, and I hate to say this because you seem like a lovely lady, but you were a dumbass for not doing your homework on this family. And I understand that, you know, sometimes you just want to go into these things blind and you want to, you know, just love on the person, whatever. But this person comes with a lot of baggage, especially given who his mother is and was. So I think you really should have did your homework on that. That being said, I'm not going to sit there and excuse all this alleged bad behavior the royal family has had. I cannot excuse that. I can't excuse the fact that the royal family has done nothing to squash this bad press. I can't excuse the fact that, you know, if what she's saying is true, that this is now like the second or third person who's married into this family who has been essentially sabotaged. Because honestly, a lot of the stuff that Meghan has said sounds oddly familiar. Take a look.
I don't think many people would want me to be queen. Actually, when I say many people, I mean the establishment that I'm married into, because they've decided that I'm a non-starter.
Why do you think they've decided that?
Because I do things differently, because I don't go by a rule book, because I lead from the heart, not the head. And albeit that's got me into trouble in my work, I understand that. But someone's got to go out there and love people and show it.
And do you think that because of the way you behave, that's precluded you effectively from becoming queen?
Yes, well, not precluded me, I wouldn't say that. I just don't think I have as many supporters in that environment than I did. Yeah.
You mean within the royal household?
Mm-hmm. They see me as a threat of some kind. And I'm here to do good. I'm not a destructive person.
Why do they see you as a threat?
I think every strong woman in history has had to walk down a similar path. And I think it's the strength that causes the confusion and the fear. Why is she strong? Where does she get it from? Where is she taking it? Where is she going to use it? Why do the public still support her? When I say public, you go in and do an engagement and there's a great many people there to comfort myself, having been comfort lots of other people. So it would be a regular pattern to jump into the fridge. It was a symptom of what was going on in my marriage. I was crying out for help, but giving the wrong signals. And people were using my bulimia as a coat on a hanger. They decided that was the problem. Diana was unstable.
And
Objected, but it was my escape mechanism, and it worked for me at that time.
did you seek help from any other members of the royal family?
No. You have to know that when you have bulimia, you're very ashamed of yourself, and you hate yourself. So, and people think you're wasting food. So you don't discuss it with people. And the thing about bulimia is your weight always stays the same, whereas with anorexia you visibly shrink. So you can pretend the whole way through. There's no proof.
So before we continue with the Diana commentary, let me just touch on what William said. I'm sorry, what Harry said. The comments about Archie's skin tone, was he going to look like whatever, I think is just disgusting and it's abhorrent. And there's concerns about his skin tone, and I really wish, like everybody else, that he would just said who it was, whatever. Now, granted, there are some people in his family who have said some racist things, like his grandfather, which why people thought it was him, like his uncle Andrew, who nobody seems to talk about or seems to cover, which is a double standard in and of itself because he's been known to hang out with alleged pedophiles and sex traffickers. And speaking of which, Piers Morgan is actually friends with his ex-girlfriend Ghislaine, which makes things very, very interesting because they don't really cover Prince Andrew in the news in his escapades like that at top billing like they do Meghan and all her transgressions. His relationship with the family was very, very interesting. I'm glad to hear that he's still good with the Queen, because honestly, all things said, I know the Queen can be cold based on what Charles said, and people, say she can be really, really, her. I like the Queen. I'm sorry, I like the Queen, and I'm glad to hear that they're still okay. But it's not so great with Charles and William. Personally, Charles has been on my shit list since Princess Diana, and when I was wanting to understand what was happening with that, what have you. William, I'm not surprised because of, Princess Diana and them have always said that Harry is more like Diana, William is more like Charles. So it's not a surprise to me that things turned out the way they did. After all, Diana would call Harry her little Spencer. So I'm not surprised that personality-wise, whatever, this could, be a clash and how things are in worldview. And since this is such a delicate topic, whatever, one chose duty, one chose the heart and passion. And I'm not saying William is right or wrong. I'm not saying Harry is right or wrong in the decision, but that's their decision. But I do feel like people need to stop jumping on them and jumping on these royals. Whatever, these are people, they have feelings, especially on such a huge scale. They can have all the money in the world, but money in the world does not fix when people are being mean and harsh and judgmental and attacking your wife and your family. Not so much because of who she is, because nobody knows the real Meghan Markle, but Meghan Markle, Harry, and maybe a few friends and family, whatever. But there's attacking her, and they're making veiled slights at her, and people have said horrible things about her race, and that cannot be denied. I remember seeing on Twitter when somebody's like, "Oh, Harry proposed to her with a chicken nugget from McDonald's in a box." That was literally a thing. So people cannot tell me that racism is involved. Now, do I think all of the UK is racist? No, I don't. Do I think there are some racist Brits out there? Yes, I do. Just like there's some racist Americans out there. No matter what country you go to, there's going to be racism. I'm glad they brought up the fact that the reason why they left essentially is because Meghan was not getting the support that she needed. Obviously, she's feeling suicidal. She's feeling down. She's not getting the help that she needs, and I think it's better and healthier for everybody involved to step away or step back. And I do love how they brought the fact that the Queen was not blindsided because she said so in her own statement that this was months in the making. The lack of support of the family, but was one thing that kept being hammered back home and hammered back home. Truth be told, this interview wasn't what I was expecting. I thought they were going to give me high drama, and I thought they were going to give me, oh my God, they're so horrible people. I never got the impression that the British royal family were horrible people. I just feel like they were so entrenched in tradition and in duty, they cannot figure out how to acclimate quickly, which is how the Diana's happens, which is how Meghan's happened. It's not so much that they think these people, are horrible, but they're different from what they're accustomed to, and they may not know how to deal with it. And that's what I got from it. One thing I did find strikingly odd was invisible contractor. Good press from the press to the royals. Royals, pretty much kiss their ass, and it's like the symbiotic circular thing going on. I did find that really interesting, but I'm not surprised, especially after the Queen's 1992 Annus Horribilis, the Panorama interview with Diana and Martin Bashir in 1995, Diana died in 1997, which almost destabilized the whole entire monarchy. I'm not surprised that they have a kind of a buddy buddy relationship with the press now, because if they get bad press, they can get that on their asses. Um, they're talking about when things begin to change, and Harry invoked Diana quite a bit in that situation where the Australian tour, and people were like, "Oh, I saw the Crown." I'm like, but people who did not see the Crown, who actually read their history and are learned in history, know that around that time things began to change for Diana, and during the Australian tour. And he also touched on the fact that he had been cut off by his family, and he's living off Diana's inheritance, and she kind of probably saw it coming. Because again, it doesn't surprise me. Because again, Harry is a lot like Diana's in personality. He actually looks like a lot like Diana's family too. That's hence why they call him again the little Spencer. So this doesn't really surprise me. She probably thought somewhere down the line that he could be like this. He could be rebellious. He could be different from the rest of the royal family, and she wanted to make sure he was taken care of accordingly, which I think is a great thing. I think it's a wonderful thing. I personally, watching the interview and what I've read about the royal family and what I've watched about the royal family, I don't get the feeling that they're bad people, and I'm thinking that they were really Harry and Meghan really cognizant of as not painting them that way, but I think they're very insensitive, and I think they're so steeped in tradition, or as Harry would put it, trapped in the establishment, trapped in the institution, that they cannot see things as clearly as somebody else could, and they're kind of everything's black and white. There's no gray for them, and that can cause rifts, that can cause problems. But let's see what the reactions from other people were, and then we'll talk about that.
Why is everybody else such an expert about racism against black people? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Piers. You don't get to call out what is and isn't racism against black people. You can call out all the other stuff. I'll leave you to call out all the other stuff you want, but leave the racism stuff to us.
I think when
Queen. Listen, by all means, let's applaud the Queen when she does something right. But when she does something wrong, we need to call her out.
What did she do wrong? What did she do wrong?
What kind of grandmother? Let me finish. What kind of grandmother will be so close to her grandson Harry, but then not use her power and influence as queen to protect them from the racist media coverage? What kind of grandmother will protect her own son, Prince Andrew, from the potential crime of raping a minor, but will do jack all to protect Harry and Meghan? Especially, I have no doubt that she would have heard about the suicidal thoughts and the help and support she needs. And then you sit there hammering on about how the royal institution is not racist. Are you out of your godforsaken mind?
No, you know what? I find what you're saying about the Queen actually disgraceful. I find what you're saying... You're entitled to your opinion, Shola. I find... Sorry, no, I'm allowed to respond to what you've just said.
Is rooted... Listen, you might learn something. The royal family as an institution is rooted in colonialism, white supremacy, and racism. The legacy is right there. So you're now surprised that a comment would have been made by several members of the royal family about how dark Archie's skin is.
It's not several members, actually. No, you can't spew lies.
You're more outraged that Harry and Meghan...
Are we allowed to engage in any of this?
Let me finish.
Well, you're not stopping.
Outraged that Harry and Meghan had the audacity to speak that truth than you should be at the actual outrage of racism.
Right, okay. Am I allowed to respond to this? Am I allowed to respond yet?
You can respond now.
Okay. I think what you've just said about the Queen is disgusting. I think it's unbelievable. You talk about the behaviour of a 19...
Am I lying when I said that?
Allow me to say what I'm... Allow me to explain.
And the institution is protected.
Right. Allow me to defend our royal family, thank you.
So you guys saw the reactions and, you know, in the tweets and so on and so forth. You know, you had people on Meghan and Harry's side like Serena Williams, Billie Jean King, Michael Moore. You also had people against her, such as Bethany Franklin, who I wish would go and sit down somewhere because I'm tired of hearing about her and her self-important, self-righteous ass. And a lot of commenters on, you know, a lot of British commenters, a lot of older British commenters in particular, you know, the more traditionalists are, you know, very much on Team Crown, if I guess we're going to call it. And as you saw, the abolish the monarchy was trending, and like honestly, this situation can be a PR disaster for the royal family, like it was in 1997 when Diana died. And so the royal family needs to play this very carefully. Now, the royal family did respond and said they are looking into the allegations of racism in the family, what have you. But I don't know if they're going to say anything more past that, because I just found that out a couple hours ago while I was actually working on this video. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm going to include that statement in here as well. But the person who has had the most venom for Meghan Markle over the years is one Piers Morgan. He's had to say a lot of foul things about them. But this is what he said about them the day after the interview.
I'm angry to the point of bawling over today. I'm sickened by what I've just had to watch.
OK, a number of people might be upset.
Sorry, you can come to you can defend
it
in a minute. I'm just going to say what I'm going to say.
OK.
This is a 2-hour trash-a-thon of our royal family, of the monarchy, of everything the Queen has worked so hard for, and it's all been done as Prince Philip lies in hospital. They trash everybody. They basically make out the entire royal family a bunch of white supremacists by dropping this race bombshell without...
Use that phrase.
They didn't name which one it was. They just throw it out there. So it could be any member of the royal family. And Harry says, I'll never say who it was. Well, you better say it fast.
What's the part of the interview that you're referring to?
The bit where they accuse an unnamed member of the royal family. This is the race bombshell that Meghan drops that Harry then talks about. Let's watch. It's odd, though, because you were comfortable about sharing everything else in that interview, but you're prepared to let that bombshell just lie completely unanswered so that we now have to think it could be any one of the royal family that was apparently racist about the skin colour of your child. I just don't think that's acceptable. They trash Kate. She's taken down. She apparently made poor Meghan cry. Well, so she trashes her.
Yeah,
they trash Prince Charles.
That's in response
they trash
to a question
William.
about the
They trash the monarchy, the institution.
And
you know what? We're going to bring in Chris Shipp here. Chris, I got to say, I watched this interview, A, with my jaw dropping like everybody else, but B, with mounting anger, mainly because I could see the way it is already playing in America and around the world. This is a caricature portrait of our monarchy and royal family, which I think is contemptible. I've got to be honest with you.
OK, you said that you wanted your say, and we've let you have your say. Can I just have my say as well on this? They have dropped bombshells, no doubt about that. So...
OK, again, let's have the names. Who did you go to? What did they say to you? I'm sorry, I don't believe a word she says, Meghan Markle.
Well, that's a
I wouldn't believe it if she read me a weather report. And the fact that she's fired up this onslaught against our royal family, I think is contemptible. Chris, you're the impartial...
Now, you know, we're talking about mental health, things like that, whatever, and, like, he was just so cavalier in his attitude. And Piers Morgan, we all saw, he got dragged up and down Twitter. And, you know, he's very known for being a firebrand. He's very well known for being, you know, just anti-Meghan. And people are like, well, why is that? Because once upon a time, Meghan Markle and Piers Morgan were friendly. They were Twitter friends. Everybody has Twitter friends. Everybody has Facebook friends. Everybody has Instagram friends. That doesn't necessarily mean you're friends in real life, and you guys may meet up and hang out a couple times, but you're not like legit friends. So I'm gonna let Piers tell you the story.
Take me back to the first time when Meghan hit you up on Twitter.
Right.
What did she say?
Well, I love Suits, the show she was in, and I followed on Twitter 4 of the stars of Suits, including Meghan. And she immediately direct messaged me. She slid into my DMs faster than a greyhound. Do you have greyhounds in America?
Yeah, they're good.
And it was like, Piers, I'm such a big fan. I'm so excited you're following me and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, great. You know, I really think you're great. And we exchanged messages. We then started emailing each other. She then brought in Rick Hoffman, who plays Lewis Litt in Suits. He came on my show here, Good Morning Britain. We sent Meghan pictures. She went to Africa. She sent me pictures from Africa and emails. She started sending me early episodes of Suits. I was on the inside track.
You're in. This is the inside, yeah.
Then she says, I'm coming to London to see my friend Serena play at Wimbledon, Serena Williams, and I'm going to have a couple of meetings, but I've got time. Do you want to meet up? I went, great, come to my local pub.
Handsome Cab?
No, it was the Scarsdale Tavern, actually, in Kensington, ironically, a few hundred yards from Kensington Palace. And she turned up looking $1 million. We had 90 minutes together. I had pints of foaming real ale, as you'd expect from a British man. And she had a couple of dirty martinis. Oh. And we talked about life and the universe and Donald Trump and, you know, everything, really. Her days as a deal or no deal suitcase girl. And I thought, what a delightful person. Nobody in the pub knew who she was. She just looked very glamorous, but no one knew who she was. And she left saying, I've really enjoyed it. Yes, meet up again. Thank you very much for your time. She tweeted at the end of the week, great, or that day, I think, or the next day, great to see my friends in London, including Piers Morgan. I was like, oh, great, you know, how nice. Last I ever heard from her.
She ghosted you.
Ghosted, gone.
Drafted you like a bad habit.
So, after that, you know, and him being ghosted, that's not what happened. He just started going on this tear where he just trashed her left and right. And the company who he edits for is the one, you know, Daily Mail is the one doing most of the trashing. Go figure. And you see he gets on Good Morning Britain, and he just sits there and just spews all this vitriol about her and, you know, talks mad smack about her or whatever. And the other hosts don't say anything. They don't check him on it. They don't really, they give like a little bit of, they give a tap back, but not a pushback. And so he's been pretty much given free reign to say whatever he wants, as long as he wants, whenever he wants, on these shows, and he gets a platform for it. And, you know, I think this all comes from the fact that he got rejected by Meghan. He, you know, was a fan of hers and Suits and all this stuff, whatever. She was gracious enough to hang out with them, and she got with Harry, and then that was the end of that. Like, sometimes you don't see each other again, you don't speak again. Maybe it just wasn't as enjoyable for her as it was for you. Who knows? But today, he got his comeuppance, because today there was a weatherman by the name of Beresford tells Piers a little bit about himself. Check that out.
They have had an overwhelming amount of negative press. You know, I watched the program yesterday, and yes, they had some great press around the wedding, but what press is going to trash someone's special day? There was bad press around the engagement, before the engagement, and everything that has followed since has been incredibly damaging, quite clearly to Meghan's mental health and also to Harry. And I hear Piers say that, you know, William has gone through the same thing. But do you know what? Siblings experience tragedy in their life, and one will be absolutely fine and brush it off, and the other will not be able to deal with it so strongly. And that's clearly what has happened with Prince Harry in this situation. He walked behind his mother's coffin at a tender age in front of the globe. That is going to shape a young boy for the rest of his life. So I think that we need to all take a step back. And I understand that you don't like Meghan Markle. You've made it so clear a number of times on this programme, a number of times. And I understand that you've got a personal relationship with Meghan Markle, or had one, and she cut you off. She's entitled to cut you off if she wants to. Has she said anything about you since she cut you off? I don't think she has, but yet you continue to trash her.
OK, I'm done with this.
No.
Sorry, no. Sorry.
Do you know what? That's pathetic.
You can trash me, maybe not my
No.
See you later.
I'm being...
Sorry, can't do this.
This is absolutely diabolical behaviour. I'm sorry, but Piers spouts off on a regular basis, and we all have to sit there and listen. 6:30 to 7 o'clock yesterday was incredibly hard to watch. Incredibly hard to watch.
So, well, you can't see because, you know, copyright, I'm not going to try to get in trouble. So you hear the exchange, and then Piers storms off the stage, and then he quits. The timing is a little incidental because, again, people have been making comments about, you know, his attacks on her and things like that, whatever. You know, people should investigate that, especially with the mental illness, you know, campaign that ITV is working on in the UK. So, but Piers just abruptly quits after 70 seconds of being put in the hot seat. And it's funny because, again, you can dish it for years, literally years. You can dish it out. You can sit there and talk mad shit, crazy shit about these people that you don't even know like that. But the second somebody puts your feet to the fire for 70 seconds, that's enough for you to storm off, say, oh, I'm not doing this, oh, this is wrong. And then you're like, oh, you call me diabolical on national television. I'm like, well, it was diabolical what you did. It was character assassination what you did. It was disgusting. It was slanderous. It was libelous what you have said and what you have done these past 3 years. And so, quite frankly, Piers Morgan, good riddance to you. You are, people like you are the scum of the earth. And I'm so glad that I won't have to listen to you or watch you when I tune into Good Morning Britain, because guess what? I do watch that show because, again, I do like watching British TV. So, bye-bye. And Alex Beresford, I hope you get a frickin' raise. And I know you're a weatherman for the situation, but I hope you become a more regular panel. And I appreciate the classy way in which you did it. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't get angry. You weren't overly aggressive. People are trying to defend Piers, say, oh, he shouldn't have said that. You know, he was trying to get under his skin, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. That's how you classily deal with somebody who was disrespectful and who was rude. And he was right. That 6:30 to 7 o'clock hour, the half hour, was uncomfortable watching because it was just a barrage of insults and a barrage of nastiness. And you hear the other woman trying to get a word in edgewise the day before, and she's going to get nothing in. So, bye-bye. Toodles, bitch. Bye, whore. That's exactly what you get, Piers. No sympathy for me whatsoever. None at all. All the money that you have accrued over the years, you can hold it tight and sleep with you really, really well. Or better yet, maybe Chef Amros come give you a visit again and make you cry. So Piers Morgan's probably taking more L's this week than the word alloplastically. Yeah, that's a word. And then we get to Thomas Markle, Meghan's father, who goes on this hobo, tours. Like, I've apologized to her. Harry was snotty to me. She stopped talking to me. She can't talk to anybody. I'd welcome her open arms and blah, blah, blah. And you can take a look at these here.
Well, I'm very disappointed about it. I don't think that. I've apologized about this thing. What happened, at least 100 times or so. Bottom line is, I've never heard back from Meghan or Harry in any way, shape, or form. When they say that I'm marrying and taking advantage of the press, well, basically what I do, because I haven't heard from them, is I'll do a story for the press. If I don't hear from them in 30 days, then I'll do another story for the press. And I've yet to hear from them.
Thomas...
I would love to hear from them.
Of course.
And they would say, Thomas, why do you keep talking to the press? What's your response to that?
Because they're not talking to me.
The story.
When they decide to talk to me, I'll stop. The British royal family are racist at all. I don't think the British are racist. This thing about what color will the baby be or how dark will the baby be, I'm guessing and hoping it's just a dumb question from somebody. I don't think. After having the last time we spoke, we didn't speak. We actually texted each other. I was laying in a hospital bed after having a heart attack, and I had to tell them that I couldn't come to the wedding. At that point, we pretty much said goodbye. Actually, it wasn't quite saying goodbye. Harry had said to me at that point, if you had listened to me, this wouldn't have happened to you. And me laying in a hospital bed after I've had a procedure and getting a stent put here and a stent put here, felt that was kind of snotty, so I hung up.
And then like the issue was because Megan had brought it up, in the interview for the extra parts, whatever, that she stopped talking to her father after he staged photos and stuff like that with the paparazzi, and he said he's apologized for it 100 times, so on and so forth. But my thing is like this: if you are willing to sell your daughter out that once, who say you won't do it again? So I get why Megan doesn't talk to you. I get why Megan doesn't deal with you or that leech of a bitch sister she has, Samantha. Is just not necessary. And then you're gonna go on pretty much essentially blackmail them. I'm gonna keep going to the press and keep going to the press until you talk to me. I'm like, dude, you're the reason why she doesn't talk to you now, and how you're acting is why she doesn't deal with you. Her mother, she's still cool with, she's still close with. Doria Ragland, people have been hounding her for years, just like they've been hounding you. But has she said anything? Have you ever heard Doria Ragland say anything about this girl? No. I haven't Googled it. I looked for the, I typed in the phrase Doria Ragland speaks out. You know what I found? You, Thomas Markle. So that tells me all you need to know about you. In closing, this situation has a lot of parallels in history, with British history, whatever. If you go back to 1930, I want to say 6, King Edward VIII was a bachelor, and he got involved with a woman who was 2 times divorced, working on her 3rd divorce, named Wallis Simpson. And he was told he could not keep his crown if he married her. So he abdicated in favor of his brother Bertie, who became George VI, and he became the king instead. And while Edward became the Duke of Windsor, and there was friction in the family over that. So this is nothing new. This is the Queen's uncle. The Queen's sister, Princess Margaret, also went through something similar. She was, in love with somebody who was a divorcee and so on and so forth. And her family, Elizabeth included, pretty much said, look, you either roll with us or you roll with him. But if you roll with him, we're cutting you off. So Princess Margaret, she stayed and she put duty over her personal feelings. And, she subsequently, had a very, very colorful life, and she rebelled and she drank and she had affairs and all this wonderful stuff, and she smoked. And, it was just really sad to see what happened to her, because the person that she really wanted, she couldn't have. And she had to choose between her family and the pressures of her family versus going forward what her heart really wanted. And the guy she ended up marrying, she ended up divorcing anyway. So, I guess it didn't work out for her the way they planned it. Charles, same thing. He had a thing for Camilla Parker Bowles. That's not who he got. Instead, he got with Diana. And it was very, very clear to anybody who studied that era that Diana was probably really into him, but he may have thought she was attractive, but he wasn't into her like that. He went so far as to say, when they asked the question, are you in love? He answered, and I quote, whatever love means. Well, of course, when her answer was, of course. So it's like, and then he goes and strikes up the affair back with Camilla Parker Bowles again, what have you. And, that leads to a whole situation between those three that plays in the tabloids for years. People still hate Camilla to this day over that. They still hate her to this day over that. And, when Diana confronts her, she's like, well, you have all that you ever wanted, so what's your problem, pretty much. And it's just one of those things where it's like, these things have played out time and time and time again. There's at least again, this is again. King Edward was 1936, so like in the past 100 years, these scandals and these situations where people are choosing crown or versus family and having feuds, so on and so forth, has reached a fever pitch. And now we have Meghan. The difference between the Meghan situation and the Diana situation is that Diana had the support of the people. You know, the press may have said she was unstable, things like that, whatever, but Diana had the support of the people. Meghan does not have the support of the people, most of them anyway. You know, Meghan has been vilified in such a way that most people probably won't come to her aid. There are a good chunk of the British out there who would, you know, stand up for her, but I don't think most would, like they would have for Diana. And I think, again, like to Harry's point, that they knew that they might have a Diana 2.0 on their hands, and they were like, we need to cut this shit short. Again, Harry followed in, you know, line with his great great uncle and what he chose to do, and he did what his great aunt, Princess Margaret, couldn't do. He did what his father couldn't do. He put his family, he put what he felt personally he wanted and he loved above duty. And kudos to you for doing that. That's all I have for you. This has been a long video, my longest video yet. Again, like I said before, do I think the royals are bad people? No. Do I think they've done a lot of bad things? For sure. Do I think that, you know, the family can heal from this? Probably not, because you go look at Prince Edward, King Edward, or the Duke of Windsor, have you look at it, and his relationship with Elizabeth's mother, the Queen Mother, with Elizabeth herself, so on and so forth. It never really got into a good space, and the Duke of Windsor also gave an interview which kind of hinted at this kind of stuff. Wallace Simpson did a memoir which foreshadowed a lot of this stuff. Diana's own words are strikingly similar to what Meghan Markle had to say. So I'm not seeing possibly a big royal, kumbaya, we're gonna get together, wouldn't it be great type of thing. I don't see that happening. If it does, I'd be so happy for them, because again, they are a family. These are people. So we'll see how this plays out. What are your thoughts? Are you Team Harry and Team Meghan? Are you Team Crown? I personally see the sides of both of them. I do, of course, feel like, Meghan and Harry were given a raw deal. But I also feel like that people, before they start judging the Queen and the Crown, understand what their customs are, understand how they operate are. Because, again, like, they play by different set of rules than we do, and it doesn't make it right or wrong, but we need to be mindful of that. So, what do you think? Whose side are you on? Are you on both sides? Are you on no side? Do you think history is repeating itself? Because obviously it's repeated itself in various shades over the past century. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section. Bye.